So today we're diving into a 25-year-old Australian mystery, and it's one that continues to baffle investigators and has left a family just desperate for answers. It's the story of a beloved mother who, it seems, just vanished into thin air, leaving behind this trail of incredibly bizarre clues.
Okay, so our story really kicks off with this. A seemingly ordinary personal ad from a newspaper way back in 1994. It's the kind of thing you'd probably just skim right past, just someone looking for a connection. But what if this one simple ad was actually the starting point for one of Australia's most heartbreaking missing person cases? Yeah, what looks so innocent on the surface might just be the very first thread in a very, very dark tapestry. All right, Section 1, A Mother Vanishes. Let's wind the clock back. It's June of 1997 on the Gold Coast in Australia. A respected teacher and mother, Marion Barter, is about to leave for what she's telling everyone is the trip of a lifetime. The problem is, this planned adventure will soon become a permanent and very mysterious absence.
So Marion was 51 years old at the time, a three-time divorcee, and her kids were grown up. She does a few big things all at once. She quits her job, sells her house, and packs her bags for what she says is a year-long trip to the UK. To her family, it really just looked like a well-deserved fresh start, a brand new chapter.
And at first, everything seemed totally normal. Marion was calling her daughter, Sally, and she was sending postcards from her travels. But then, just a few weeks into her big trip, all communication just stopped. Silence.
The family's concerns started to grow, but it turned into genuine alarm about 4 months later. Marion, who was an incredibly devoted mother, missed her son's birthday. I mean, this was unheard of. She had never, ever forgotten his birthday in his entire life. And for her daughter, Sally, that was the moment. That's when she knew something was terribly wrong. So with her mother completely silent, Sally began a search for answers that would basically consume her life for the next 2 decades. And it was a search that was just marked by one shocking discovery after another, and maybe even more shockingly, by complete official indifference. As Sally started looking into things herself, the story just got stranger and stranger. She finds out her mom didn't just sell her house, she'd done it in secret, and someone was systematically draining her bank account. Fearing the absolute worst, she went to the police. But here's the thing that's just stunning. The police concluded that Marion had simply decided to start a new life and didn't want to be found. They figured she was the one withdrawing the money and had just chosen to cut ties. They wouldn't even classify her as a missing person, which left Sally completely on her own to figure this out. For 22 years, nothing. Sally heard nothing. I mean, just think about that. She got married, she had her own children, her father passed away. Then, in an unthinkable tragedy, her brother took his own life. And through all of these huge family moments, there was just silence from Marion. Okay, Section 3, the shocking return. So then, in 2019, after more than 2 decades of silence, a private detective who was actually hired by a TV news program uncovered something that would absolutely shatter everything Sally and the police thought they knew. I mean, the assumption had always been that if Marion was alive, she was somewhere in the UK or Europe, right? Living this new life she had supposedly set out to find. But the truth was so much stranger and a lot closer to home. She hadn't stayed in Europe for a year. She hadn't even stayed for a few months. And this is where the story just takes a wild turn. The detective found that Marion had returned to Australia on August 2nd, 1997, less than 2 months after she left. And when she got back, she officially changed her name to Florabella Natalia Marion Ramachale, claiming to be a housewife from Luxembourg. She had been back in the country the entire time, living under a totally new identity. So, Section 4, the shadowy figure. This explosive revelation, which was really brought to light by the hit Australian podcast The Lady Vanishes, finally forced the police to take the case seriously. They reopened the whole investigation, and pretty soon, a shadowy figure emerged from Marion's past. The investigation quickly started to focus on a convicted con man with a very specific and very cruel pattern. He would find lonely, single women, charm his way into their lives, and of course their bank accounts. And then, once all the money was gone, he would just vanish. And this guy was a master of deception.
I mean, we're talking about a man who police found had used at least 17 different names over the years to lure and defraud his victims. And here's the connection. Remember that newspaper ad from 1994? The suspect admitted he placed it. He admitted he met Marion. But he has always denied any further involvement. He says they had a brief relationship, but that he had nothing to do with her changing her name, her money, or her disappearance.
And that brings us to our final section, an unsolved mystery. Because that's the frustrating state of the case today. We have a timeline, we have a suspect, we even have a motive. But what we don't have is any hard evidence and no answers to the biggest questions of all. I mean, is it possible? Did she get mixed up with this guy, give him her money, and then become so ashamed or maybe so scared that she chose to live the rest of her life in hiding, even from her own children? But then there's the other, much darker thought. What if Marion discovered the truth about her new companion? Did she threaten to expose him? And did he silence her permanently to protect his secrets, leaving absolutely no trace of what happened? So, as it stands today, this is where we're at. Despite a coronial inquest, a super popular podcast, and a police reward for information, the case is pretty much at a standstill. The suspect denies everything, and without a body or a confession, Marion Barter officially remains a missing person. After more than 25 years, this story isn't just a cold case. It's the story of a daughter's unwavering love and her absolutely relentless quest for the truth. Sally Layden just wants to know what happened to her mom. And after a lifetime of searching, it's a question that still has no answer.